Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show.
Welcome back to the Print on Demand cast. On this week's episode, we talk about tips for lowering your tax burden. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Print on Demand cast. We hope you had a Merry Christmas. All of the happy holidays. It's great to be back here with you guys. We are on the other side of Christmas, which means Q4 starting to slow down a little bit, maybe some breathing room. You're just kind of mentally preparing yourself for what is known in these parts as Returnuary, which is a scary time in and of itself, but you made it. The crazy time of Q4 has come, has happened, has gone, and we're on the other side. And joining me for this episode, just like every other episode, my co-host Travis Ross. Travis, how was your Christmas and how was your Q4 overall? Are you feeling that like I can take a breath moment, or where are you at in terms of your Q4 journey?
Yeah, I mean, this was one of the first Q4s that I've had in a long time where I wasn't doing production, and or having a staff full, and we're all trying to get all these orders out. And so in one way it was, a little bit more relaxed, but in another way it was even, it's just a different kind of stress because the production is actually out of your hands, when you have a outsourcer doing it for you. So that was a little bit, I don't know, something to get used to, I mean, sure. Every Q4, carriers are going to like delay shipments and things are going to get delayed. And you combine that with, some of the vendors that some of these companies use, they slow down too. And so it just creates like customers, it's not a Q4 unless you get an email that says you ruined somebody's Christmas because the product didn't arrive in time. I mean, that's the kind of the joke in the industry, but that's
how you know you've arrived.
It never fails.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, that's good to know that we're on the other side of Q4 and Christmas is come and gone. I know you said you had a great Christmas. We talked a little bit offline about how yesterday was. As we're recording, it is the 26th of December, so we're literally fresh off the holiday. So but yeah, it's good now, focusing to New Year's, focusing on what's to come in 2024. And we can tell you one thing that's to come in 2024, which will never change, and that's this segment, the weekly dad joke.
Time for the weekly dad joke.
All right, Travis, give us this week's weekly dad joke.
Well, it's kind of thematic. I was pretty excited. I gave my son, who's used to be my production manager. He's been on the podcast. His name's Tate.
Yeah.
He's been living by himself or, away from the family for several years now. And so I was excited to give him a brand new refrigerator for Christmas. I'll tell you what, when he opened up that door, his face lit up.
And that's this week's weekly dad joke. I like it. I texted you and told you I got my wife an abacus for Christmas.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
It's the little things that count.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there you go. Because
a twofer.
There it is. You're all very welcome. All right. Well, we're gonna get into our this week's point of interest, and we talked about it's the end of the year, going into 2024, and one thing that I've actually looked forward to I think last year was our first year that they kind of rolled this out for podcasters on their platform. But everyone always talks about their Spotify Wrapped at this time of year. Everyone's posting their top artists and whatever. Well, they do the same thing for podcasters. For those listening, in case you don't know, they give you some insight as far as the Spotify platform goes and the content that you post and produce on their platform. So we did this last year. I thought it'd be fun to do it this year. We're going to go back and review this year. So this point of interest, we're going over the Spotify Wrapped.
Hey, Doc, you better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Back to the Future to review our year, I guess. But we're going to use that same music because I like that song. It's very nice. So some
It is nice.
background music for this. Here we go. This year's Spotify Wrapped. And Travis, I know you and I have gone through this individually, like offline, and pretty surprising to kind of hear or see, rather, what this year held for us. So let's take a look. It says, for those listening, 2023 people were really, really feeling what you do. And then unnecessary animations, which I understand because you do unnecessary bumpers. Ready? Let's take it from the top. It says, speaking of your top episode was episode 125. 11 things I wish I knew before I started in pod. And Travis is a published author. That's when we talked about your piece that went in, was it
Graphics Pro?
Graphics Pro. That's right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It was streamed 521% more than an average episode, which is wild.
That's a lot.
That is a ton. Let's hear it for the new fans. All of you out there. 84% of our listeners discovered us in 2023. That's wild.
That's really awesome, or it's really horrible, because that means that, like so many listeners we've lost over the first 2 years. But hey, we got 84% of the new ones in 2020. I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows what that means? Let's see. Podcast 125, what we just talked, brought in 7% of the new listeners, started right there.
Well,
where the other percent came from, nobody knows. How's it feel to have gone global? We're streaming 54 countries. The United States is the top country, which is not surprising, but 52% of the total streams from the United States.
Yeah.
Which
that means there's a lot of streams that are happening.
Yeah. I would have thought it would be more than that, but
apparently. Thank you to all of you who are in these states.
Yes. So, get any good postcards this year is what it wants to know from me, or from us. It says that you have the most listeners in Canada. So I guess answers new listeners in Canada. They obviously have good taste. What else are they into? I don't know why we want to know this, but let's take a look. Business, comedy, education. I think that encapsulates everything that this podcast presents to people. So it makes sense that would be the top 3 categories for them. So
it's basically an amalgamation of those 3 things.
Exactly.
Every week for you guys. You're welcome.
Yeah. Our listeners' top music genre, pop, rock, and rap. All right.
Because that matters when you're talking about podcasts.
Yeah.
But hey,
thanks, guys. Thanks for this. Definitely told their friends about you. Let's see how they did that this year. 51% direct link. That's awesome. Last year, text was the number 1, or Facebook was the number 1. But right now, 51% of the shares happened by them just sharing a direct link to the show, which is awesome.
And 9 at the bottom there, 9% from WhatsApp. That's pretty cool.
That's international. You think about that. The most shared episode was our live with Caitlin Lane from Crown Trophy that we recorded. That's awesome. That was a really good episode. Yeah, shout out to Caitlin. It was a lot of fun chatting with her. Podcast rating of 4.7. That's up from 4.5. Thank you all for reviewing and treating us kindly on Spotify, at least. This year, your listeners did more than just listen. They got to talking. We published 14 polls and got 30 votes. That's pretty cool. 40 Q&As, 3 responses. That's
3
less
responses.
cool. 37 went unanswered. They're going to give us a pop quiz here real quick. What episode got the most audience engagement? What do you think, Travis? You pick. I don't know. Is it
episode
AI
140 is how AI and automation is influencing print on demand. Episode 145, what the heck is a niche? And how do you find one? And then episode 142, 4 options to bring print on demand production in-house. I'm going to say AI, the first one, because
I would say so.
Yeah, it's always AI, right?
Joined in listener. Oh, yeah, that's right. We know. Do we know or do we know? We know.
Episode 140. That's how we do it.
We turned the camera on this year. That's good to know.
Whatever that means.
Don't know. In 2003, we made 40 video episodes. They were the 5% most top view. Well, that's all we made in 2023 was video episodes, so I don't really know. Am I Gardner? Actually, no. I don't have a green thumb at all. But we grew the podcast, 56% increase in followers. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
Shout out to our biggest fans. Let's see. Are they going to dox anyone? Do we get phone numbers and emails? No. Listen, you're a top 10 podcast for 526 fans, which is awesome.
That's cool.
Top 5 podcasts for 290 fans, which is wild. Drum roll, please. Okay. Let's hear it. Number 1 podcast for 62 fans. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. For 62
we
people,
like you, 62 people, the best.
Top fans listen to you over 3.5 times more than our other listeners.
Wow.
75% joined you for the first time this year. Okay. All right.
I hope they're still here.
Let's zoom out. What a year. Yep. Top 10 fans, 526. Top 5, 290. Top for 62 fans. Wow. So yeah, that's basically the wrap for it. Speaking of sharing, we just made something for you. Then they're going to give us some stuff that we can post on socials,
which I think we did, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did share some of this information. But yeah, what are your thoughts, man? That's pretty crazy to think that for 62 people, they listen to us that often or that much. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of thoughts I have on it. I mean, obviously this is just Spotify's data, so I don't know that this encapsulates
everything.
Apple Podcasts or all these other Outcast and the different places you can find podcasts, but still, that's pretty cool. The other thing I just want to acknowledge, in case anyone's thinking this particular point of interest is incredibly self-serving. We just did this because it really strokes our egos quite nicely. And we like to, share that with you guys as way of saying, look at us, we're really cool. It's really just straight ego stroking. That's,
look what we can do. Yeah, really.
At least we're honest.
Is what that, It's, for two guys that never thought that we wouldn't get 62 people to listen to this period. It's cool to know that, 62 people are listening to us more than the other 500 and some. It's just really cool to see that, the content's getting out there and it is a good time. And there's big plans for 2024 and maybe we'll peel back the curtain a little bit more in the coming months. But for now, just know ambiguously big plans.
Yeah, I feel like we say that every year.
We do.
And if you have been a longtime listener, you're probably getting sick of that. But hey, didn't it say 75% of our fans just found us in 2023? So this is news to them.
Yeah.
This is
we shouldn't have said that. We'll just cut that part out.
Just cut that out. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's go into this week's main event. Tips for lowering your tax burden. So here we go. We got a new main event bumper, folks. It's been a while. We've used the same bumpers over and over again. We got a new one for this week's main event.
Main event, main event, main event. Main event, main event, main event, main event, main event, main event.
If you're not watching on Spotify or YouTube, you're going to want to go watch that bumper. It's pretty cool.
I just love how it starts with the guys are snapping on the snap, and then as soon as like the music comes in, it's just totally they just lost.
Yeah, it's like every other snap they snap with, and then but I mean the dancing fits nicely, and I'm not going to explain to you the context, dear listener. Go watch on Spotify or YouTube. So all right, it's that time of year, end of year, and you know every business. The goal is, of course, to make profit, but when you make profit, the government likes to come and take a share of that profit. It's called taxes. So any CPA will tell you, which, by the way, qualifier is not us. We are not certified public accountants by any stretch of the imagination. However, it is noted that, or it's known that for business owners this time of year, you're looking to see how you can kind of lower the impact of what that looks like at the end of the year. So, of course, again, go consult a CPA for what's best for you, the course of action you need to take. This is not a prescription to solve your tax illness, woes, nothing. It's not it. We're just sharing some ideas. So, Travis, people will be writing things off this time of year to lessen that tax burden, but to define a write-off, what to you, what is a write-off? What does a write-off mean?
Yeah, so a lot of the people who are listening already know the answer to this, but there are probably some people that may not. You know, maybe you haven't been in business for that long, but at the end of the day, really, what a write-off is anything that lowers your taxable income. So if you have a business, and a lot of the stuff, and like he said, we're not tax guys. This is not tax advice. We're just sharing what we know. And if do not take this as gospel, and please do see a CPA. But for a lot of people, it kind of depends on what tax structure you've created your business in. Are you a sole proprietor? Are you an S corp? Or all of these different types of entities will be taxed differently, and there will be different rules associated with each of those entities. But by and large, for most people, you have what's called a taxable income from a business. Depending on how that's structured, like we just said, it could change things, but there are ways to lower that taxable income. And that's what we're really talking about. Those are what we would call write-offs, things that you can basically write off of your taxable income to lower it, to then therefore lower your tax burden, so you don't owe as many taxes. That's basically, that's kind of a basic idea of what we're talking about today.
So the first thing you can do to lessen it is save for retirement. If you're self-employed, without any employees, you could consider establishing a single participant 401k plan, often called a solo 401k, that allows you to save up to 100% of your income as an employee contribution, up to the annual limit. And this year, Travis, the annual limit, it was like $66,000 for 2023. Is that right?
Yep. And an additional $7,500 if you're over 50. If you turned 50 in 2023, you can up that. So, that's a lot, and I just want to caveat this, that there are so many different, retirement vehicles. We personally try to max out our Roth, our Roth IRAs every year, because we don't pay a lot in taxes because we have a lot of kids, and there's just different situations for different people. And so a Roth IRA is actually after tax, so it doesn't lower your tax burden. You actually pay that money after tax, but then it grows tax free until you retire, and then you can take it at retirement. Let's say you contributed $20,000 over the course of a few years and you're young, and then when you're 55 or 60 or whatever, when you're actually taking it out, maybe it's $250,000 or $300,000. You don't have to pay taxes on that because you already paid them. So that's the Roth IRA. But what you're talking about with the 401k is an actual, what's called a tax shelter, or I don't even know if it's called a tax shelter. Again, I'm not a CPA, but it will lower your tax burden because you are paying that pre-tax. So let's say you made $100,000 this year in your small business. Well, you need to try to figure out ways to lower your tax burden. And one of the ways, again, is this 401k, this solo 401k plan that you can contribute up to 66,000 or an extra 7,500 if
Right.
you're over
turn
50.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so what does this mean? Basically, like I just said, you can invest in this pre-tax, so it will lower your tax burden. So let's say you had $100,000 and you invested 66,000 because maybe you had another job and you didn't need that money. You invested 66,000 in a solo 401k. Well, then your tax burden from this print-on-demand business or whatever small business you're talking about, it's 100,000 minus 66,000. So you're talking
Right.
3,400 or $34,000 that you're paying tax on instead of 66,000. And then what happens is that you would pay tax on that later when you withdraw that in your retirement. So that can, and the theory behind the 401k is that you won't be making as much money in retirement
Right.
as you are now. And so your tax bracket or the amount that you're taxed is lower. So it makes more sense to take it out later than now when you're, your first business, you make $100,000 and then you made another 100,000, whatever. Your tax bracket is higher now theoretically than it would be
Right.
later. So that is one way that you can lower your tax burden, just by saving for retirement. And there's so many other ways. There's a SEP 401k if you do have employees. This solo 401k is if you don't. So if you
Right.
have like a small time hustle and it's just you and you did really well in Merch by Amazon or whatever, this might be a way to mitigate paying more taxes.
The second way would be depreciation expense. So if you have equipment that you use for your business, you may be able to depreciate it each year and deduct that amount from your gross income. So typically, like, when we were both doing production, Travis, it's computers, it's the large printers, it's the heat presses, the mug presses, vehicles in some situations. If you have a work vehicle, if you're using work to deliver or transport, whatever that looks like, vehicles sometimes can fit that
Sales.
bill.
Yeah.
Sales. Yeah. If you're driving and knocking on doors and trying to sell your service, that could work as well. So, but Travis, if you had to kind of break it down more granular for the listener, what exactly does that practically look like? What does it mean? Depreciation expense. What does it practically look like, and how could they implement it in this year's, tax write-offs?
This year's, it may not help you, depending on how you recorded that expense in your books. I mean, I guess
Right.
if you bought like a vehicle, let's say this year, or you bought a big computer this year, like a $3,000, something that's expensive.
Yeah.
The idea is that you can assign it a depreciation schedule over time. So every year you would depreciate that equipment. In other words, it's not worth as much now. And so
Yeah.
you're instead of taking that entire amount and using the entire expense this year, this is particularly good if like, okay, I didn't make a lot of money this year.
Yeah.
And so my tax burden's already small. Let's depreciate it. So I take some of it now, but over the next, I think there's like a 5-year and a 7-year. I'm going to take a portion of the purchase price and deduct that from my future earnings. So
Right.
it really works great with very large purchases. So like, we had a couple of Epson 3070s back in the day. You had one, we had one, I mean, those are like $50,000 machines. I didn't need $50,000 of write-offs or $100,000 because I had two of them in 1 year. So I depreciated those so I could take some now, some next year, some the next year, some the next year, some the next year, et cetera, et cetera. So it really depends on how you buy those particular
Right.
items. But again, because it's still 2023, if you bought it this year, you can decide how you want to take that deduction. You can expense the whole thing in 2023 if you had a big profit. Or you can, what's probably a wiser decision is to expense it. So a little bit of more of that next year comes off the taxable expense or the taxable income for next year. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying to say, what I know in a way that makes sense and not sound like a complete idiot. I don't know.
The next way you can alleviate or lessen or lower the tax burden would be home office deduction. And this is one that, again, Travis and I are familiar with. My wife, especially, she technically has her own business, and what she's doing, her company pays her LLC. And so because she's a 1099 employee, there's no taxes taken out of her pay. It's just is what it is. So she can claim the portion of our house that she's doing business in her office. She can claim that. So basically it looks like this kind of has to meet two criteria, exclusive and regular use. So meaning that this is the portion of your residence exclusively that you use for your business on a regular basis. So her office is where she does all of her work and all of her business, or a principal place of business. Your home office must be either the principal location of the business or a place where you regularly meet with customers or clients. Again, her office meets that. So basically, if you qualify, you take the square footage of the room that you're using for your home office and figure out what percentage of that, what percentage it is of the total square footage of your house. And that percentage is actually the percent of your rent or mortgage that you can write off for your taxes for that year and alleviate that load a little bit.
Yeah. And totally, your CPA should ask you this if you're going to a CPA, or even if you do like what's the TurboTax or whatever, they should ask you, is your office or do you use part of your residence for business? And they'll ask you these questions to get you those qualifying questions. So you make sure you meet those criteria. And then from there, they'll do all of the percentages. But the basic idea is like, hey, if I have a 2,000 square foot house or residence or whatever, and I use, 300 square feet for an office or for whatever, that percentage that I'm paying in that mortgage or that rent or whatever, that should be a write-off, because I'm using it for business. And that does apply to, in the tax code, that applies to like, if you're doing business on a boat, you can write off part of your boat, it's just wherever you're actually living. And then, if you're actually doing, so that is kind of the home office deduction. And you're probably already taking that if you're doing kind of the merch by Amazon or whatever, and you're doing well, your CPA probably has already got you that. And if they haven't, get a new
ask
CPA
them about that. Yeah, exactly. If they haven't
that's
asked
a nicer way. It's Christmas. You can
just fire them. You could give them a chance if they don't know, if they say, I don't know what you're talking about. Because our CPA that we use, we used years ago, and then she moved, and now she just came back, and she's awesome. And
she's awesome. I know who she is.
Yes, we had an introductory call with her, kind of reintroducing, like, hey, welcome back. We missed you, and all this stuff. And again, she just fired down the list, asking those questions like, do you spend money on this for your business? Do you do this for your business? And so they're qualifying and seeing exactly how they can help you and how they can help you alleviate that tax burden as well. So if they're not done that, then maybe do get a new CPA, but maybe like after the holidays, because you don't want to break their hearts.
But there are so many other write-offs. So we had, we chose these 4 to start off, and then we are going to have like kind of a fifth, I guess, category. But if we wanted to, we could just keep going on and on about like different write-offs that you could potentially take. But in print on demand, in this kind of, what we're actually speaking to, these are probably some common things that you might be able to take off, but there are plenty of other small business write-offs, like paying for your health insurance. That actually, if you're a small business owner, you can get a deduction on your taxes if you pay for your own health insurance. Now, there's certain, again, all of these come qualified with talk to your CPA. There are hoops you have to jump through. There is what's called a qualified business income deduction, that may or may not be automatically just kind of like, oh, this person has a small business. I'm going to give them this, or I'm going to write this into their thing, thinking as a CPA. But that's another write-off. Your qualified business mileage on your car, like we were talking about earlier, if you're actually driving to appointments, if you have things that you have to do in your car, you can actually get a write-off. And that's it's actually pretty big. I remember back in the day when I was doing a lot more of it, it was like, I want to say it was like 50 cents, 55 cents a mile. So, I mean, like if let's just say, for instance, if you traveled to, okay, let me just go back, deducting travel expenses. So let's say you're going to, the Impressions Expo in Long Beach, or in Atlantic City, which I'm going to be at both. So you should come and say hi. But let's say you're going to drive there. Well, you could deduct that business mileage from your taxes, and then you could also deduct your hotel expense while you're there, and all your food. I think it's 50% for meals and entertainment. So you might have to only deduct a certain amount. Again, check with your CPA, but you get the idea. All of these different things can add up to a lot of savings on your taxes. Another one is employing a family member. There are certain rules and regulations about it, but you can actually save on taxes by employing a family member if there's still, let's just say there's a lot of hoops that you got to jump through there. The bottom line, like I said, there are so many other write-offs that we just didn't want to take the time to really get into, partially because we are in no way qualified to share with you about any of these.
Correct.
And the second reason is because they may or may not apply to your particular business, where I think some of the other ones we're talking about, and the one that we're going to talk about next, which is just straight up just expensing things. I think these actually do apply to a majority of our audience.
Yeah. So like Travis said, just basic, expenses. Do you use internet in your business? The answer is yes. If you're questioning, the answer is yes. Do you use your cell phone? Subscribe to other softwares that help your business, whether it's a ShipStation or whether it's a design software or whatever it looks like. Think about what that is, because you can write off a percentage of, or if not all, again, talk to a CPA, of what that usage is for your phone, for your internet, for those expenses that you're paying anyway, because it's just the cost of doing business. You're going to have to use those things, so you can get those written off to help alleviate those tax burdens.
I remember we had a Michelle Berry back. Let me see if I can find her episode. Darn, I can't find it right now, but Michelle,
keep going.
Michelle actually, she would basically do all of her designing in Procreate, which is an app on her phone. So, I mean, that, like, Michelle most likely it already is deducting her entire phone bill from her taxes, like that, the cost of that will come against her income that she makes. So,
and that's episode 102.
102. Yeah.
Yes.
And she uses the software Procreate to create all of her designs and all of that stuff. And so if you're using your phone, there's just so many different things. We've deducted our home internet for years, because I do tons of business from my home, and that I could not do the same amount of business. I could not do my business without internet at my home. So I've deducted that. There's just so many different things that you may not think about that you can lower your tax burden with. And that kind of goes into our last little segment here. What if you want to actually lower this year's tax bill and you're like, oh crap, I've made a ton of money? I mean, first of all, you should look at that. You should figure out, okay, how much money did I make this year? This is something that you should have already potentially, and we've talked about this years past, you should have maybe already talked to a CPA about, to have them speak into this actual process of lowering your tax burden. But if you haven't yet, and you're like, oh my gosh, what can I do this year? Like right now, we are going to talk about a few of our favorite subscription services, because obviously you can use those to lower your tax burden. Of course, full disclosure, these are affiliate links. And so it is kind of self-serving that we're talking about this, but I promise you, it's not totally self-serving. I mean, these actually can help you save money. And there's so
Yeah.
many other things, so many other products and services. It's not just limited, obviously, to the list that we're about to present to you.
Right.
Y- there are ways to now, before December 31st, spend money so that come tax time, when you're actually filling out your taxes, you're not paying as much.
Yeah.
And it actually benefits your business in the long run,
Yeah.
because you're actually able to have something that you didn't have. There were times, I'll just say, like, at the end of multiple years when we were in production, I bought computers in December. I would
Yeah.
buy, just all kinds of different things that would benefit me in the next year, in the following year, but it would lower my tax burden right then.
Right.
So, yeah. So let's jump
Yeah.
into
Kick it off. What's your
these.
top recommendation? Would you say, if you had to pick one, what would be the top that you would say, yeah, go get this?
So I have a top recommendation, and it's unfortunate that it's so cheap, because it's not really going to help you save a whole lot of taxes, but it's just so good. I couldn't not put it on top,
Yeah.
as and I will say too, like, a lot of these things, they'll have like an annual plan. I actually, for print on demand cast, I went through and we have we have hosting, we have
Yeah.
just different software for like our website, and just all these different tools that we use. I went and bought all of them year plans, because I want to expense all of that
Right.
money this year. And then next December, I'll do it again.
Right.
I'll use that. So, um, I would recommend, as opposed to signing up for monthly plans on these different softwares, to consider, if you're really trying to lower your tax burden, consider the annual plan, because you'll spend more now,
Yeah.
of course, and maximize that tax savings. So my number one is actually on sale right now, and it's Creative Fabrica. Creative Fabrica has been talked about on the show like a million times, and it's so cool because there's over 6 million commercial free assets, like fonts and designs
Yeah.
and size charts, and the list goes on and on and on, and they continue to add more and more to it. And right now, I think it's on sale for like $49 for the entire year. So
That's
to
wild.
me, it's a no-brainer. I love it. I use it every single day almost, or myself or my VAs. We
Yeah.
all use it together. All the time. And so to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. Unfortunately, it's not really going to save you a lot of money on your taxes, but it will help you in your print on demand business. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Next up, Travis, on the list, we have Kittle. So, I mean, Kittle's been on, we've talked about Kittle on the show, handful of times.
Yeah.
If you
Drew,
had to give
Drew's been on
reasoning,
the show.
yeah, Drew's been on the show. Why, besides Drew being on the show, why would you recommend Kittle for people to consider?
All of these obviously have a specific niche that they're targeting, and they're best for. And for Kittle, I think it really is somebody who wants really nice graphic designs, but maybe doesn't have the means to hire for graphic design. They're still trading their time for dollars, and that's what we talk about. You're either trading your time for dollars, or you're trading your dollars for time. I mean, that's what business is. And so in the beginning, a lot of times you have to trade your time, or you have to trade your time for dollars. And so by paying for Kittle, you are able to design really amazing graphics. They have so many incredible templates that you can literally edit right inside of your browser. You can do mock-ups right inside of your browser. So if you create a product and you create a design, you're like, this is awesome, I want to put it on a Bella Canvas 3001. Well, you click a button and boom, you've got some models, and and it has your design that you just designed, all of that stuff. It's a very, very powerful tool. I talk to Drew every once in a while, on Instagram or wherever. And we talk a little bit about like some of the plans. And if you do want to, Josiah, what is the episode that we had Drew on? If you want to,
I'll look it up.
More about it. We had Drew on, and he's talked. They have so many cool plans for making Kittle kind of a one-stop shop for print on demand. So that would be
That
was like my
that
second
was
recommendation.
episode 153. 153,
Okay.
yeah. A little biddle about Kittle with Drew Wilson. We crack ourselves up. The
We are
next
funny.
one, the next one that we have on the list is Place It. And again, if you're not watching on video, we have some lower thirds with the links. So and it's easy. It's just printondemandcast.com/creativefabrica/Kittle/Place It. We'll have all those in the show notes as well. And if you're watching, of course, you can see them as they come across the screen. But Place It is another one, like mock-up generation. They also have a lot of cool designs you can use for t-shirts, for video graphics, for social media. I mean, they've really... What's that?
I said logos.
Logos, yeah, absolutely. They've really kind of filled out their offerings, since we first found them. And they've got a lot of awesome lifestyle mock-ups that are fantastic. They have videos that you can put your logos on, have someone wearing your shirt on a skateboard or playing the guitar or at a coffee shop. And so they've got a lot of those types of that functionality as well. And man, when I was, in the day-to-day on What For Apparel, I used this all the time to throw designs that we were making for clients on cool, unique mock-ups to shoot them for approval, or helping them, get mock-ups for their store, something different than just the plain flat, t-shirt. So there's a lot that you can do if you get into the nitty-gritty, as we say here on the show.
Let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
So yeah, avail yourself of that as well. The next one is Everbee. Travis, why Everbee?
So for a long time, we were, we talked about E-Rank a lot, and your wife is a big fan of E-Rank, and she also has been on the show, and we talked about it. I think even last week we talked about her being on the show. And I had started to get into or just getting more emails and seeing more videos online with people that were using Everbee. And personally, I kind of have gravitated more towards Everbee, and they have like a Chrome extension that you can put in there. And then if you subscribe, it gives you so much data, and it's right there in your browser. E-Rank does the same thing, and that's actually the next one. We have, either Everbee or E-Rank, and it really depends on how you want to move forward. Like if you're comfortable, if you've already used E-Rank, just go ahead and just pay for the year. If you've already used Everbee, just pay for the year. One of the cool things that Everbee does have, they have an email service that if you subscribe, you can utilize, with a certain number of actual emails that you send, and you can set it up to send to your Etsy customers as they're buying from you, and you can just do all kinds of cool marketing tricks with Everbee that you don't have to go out and buy, like a ConvertKit or a Aweber or any of these other email, MailChimp, all of those things. You don't have to get those. You can use Everbee's kind of internal email service to remarket to your Etsy customers, which is, to me, that's kind of one of the reasons it puts it over the top of E-Rank. But again, just kill two birds with one stone right now. E-Rank's the next one. And if you're already using E-Rank, it just makes sense to, re-up, go ahead, pay for the next year. Or if you're just using like the free version of E-Rank, maybe it's time to actually invest in it. One of the things I will say, and this is kind of off script, but we had talked about before, we're like, okay, here we're going to talk about the things that we recommend on our printondemandcast.com/resources page. And one of the things that I want to say is that we don't put anything on that resources page that we don't think will help you. It's not just, we really do believe in these products that we're talking about, even though I may say Everbee's a little better. I still do not discount E-Rank, because I know so many people that are killing it with that. It's a great product as well. The second thing I wanted to say about that was, let's do the Jeopardy background or the sound so I can think about it, because it was so important. There it is. My goodness. Oh, I know what it was. See? All it took
Music.
was just some
It
Jeopardy
works.
music and it worked. The other thing I was going to say was on that resources page, we have like, affiliate links for like Printify and Printful, which we've have both used both of
Yeah.
those, and other fulfillment partners. But we're thinking if you're talking about specifically saving money on taxes,
Right. Those aren't going to really help you.
this isn't going to help you right now because that's like your fulfillment partner. You're gonna oh, I sold a t-shirt and $13 more, so I get to knock $13 off my profit.
Woohoo!
There's no like annual subscriptions,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And so just that's why we don't have any providers or vendors,
Right.
fulfillment providers on this list.
Right. Next one on the list, Merch Informer. We have also had Neil on the show. Check this out. Episode 35 was the last time we spoke with Neil on the show.
Wow.
Very long time ago. He was one of our first guests, actually. Travis, obviously you know him. We've both met him. You know him more or you know him better is probably the word.
I know him Weller,
more.
I think is the correct word.
You know him more Weller.
True international effort to pressure.
So anyway, but he's been on the show, and this is something like when we first started using and kind of delving into what was then, merch or Amazon merch on demand is what it is now. But when we started first delving into that kind of merch by Amazon account, we use this quite a bit to research things that are trending, designs, ideas that are trending, and then taking that information with what's being searched for and making our own designs based on that criteria. And it was really helpful. And it's since then its functionality has just exploded more than just searching trending t-shirt designs on various platforms.
Yeah. They have like a trademark checker. I mean, they've continued to innovate. Neil's also, his company's also created a Sales Samurai, which isn't on this list, which is another Etsy tool. They also have a book. What's it called? Book something. Like it's all about KDP books. And so they've really taken the print on demand space and they've created tools to help wherever you're at. So if you are in Merch by Amazon and you're like, oh, I don't need to make mock-ups. I don't need place it. I don't need all this other stuff. I don't need to figure out what the best ranking product is on Everbee. This might be something for you. Yeah, because likely you've heard of it if you've been on merch for any length of time, because it is kind of the OG software tool for people who sell on Amazon merch on demand. So that's Merch Informer. The last one is if you are actually doing production or you're considering it, maybe you want to start doing some mugs in your basement. Well, Heat Press Nation is we've been on their show. We've not had them on ours.
We have to have Jared on our show sometime soon.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. I have so many. I can look over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 Heat Press Nation mug presses over there. And then I have a Sawgrass 400, which now they make the 500. It's just an upgraded version. I have one of right over there. And then right under my desk over here, I have another Sawgrass 400, or I think actually that's a 500 as a backup, because I wanted to make sure that I could continue to do mugs in Q4 because I do still fulfill for some people. But that's an easy kind of entry level product that you could potentially get into. You could also get a flat press if you wanted to do some sublimation with flat press, or even just heat transfer vinyl, or Supercolor, or any of these like DTF products, the direct to film products. There's so many options for you to do in-house production. And if you have an audience, if you have a market, for me, it's local sales. I just did 200 totes a couple weeks ago for a local charity. Really, it's like a 501c3, and we did and I made out like a bandit, because I was able to do them all in-house. Yeah. And when you're ordering in that kind of bulk, you get really, really low prices for your actual prints that you're then, pressing on to the tote or the shirt or the whatever. So if you are actually in the market, you're considering going into production for a certain product, or maybe you do know a bunch of people consider the, Heat Press Nation, and that's just printondemandcast.com/HPN. And then we do get a small kickback for anything that you buy on there. But they are an amazing company. They have such great customer service. If you have any issues at all, we had a couple of our mug presses that when you closed them, the timer wouldn't start because there's like some connection wasn't right or whatever. And we called them. They immediately sent out not only the actual like part that we needed, but they like detailed out like video tutorial on how to install it and how to, like step 1, step 2, step 2, step 3. It was really amazing. So can't recommend Heat Press Nation enough. So if that's something that's you're considering, the time is now, get into that now and save on your taxes for 2023.
Absolutely. So, and again, we're on their show. It's called Customizing Culture. Episode 12 was when Travis and I got to chat with Jared on their show. It was a really good time. And so, Jared, if you're listening, and if you're not, I'll just DM me on Instagram. We need to figure out a time for you to come on the show and chat with us. So, because that was such a great time. So, I think that does it for this week's main event. Travis, anything else before we wrap this one up?
Don't think so. I think we've said it all. And I've said it multiple times.
Exactly. So thank you guys so much for listening. Again, hope you had a wonderful holiday, a Merry Christmas, and heading into the new year and talk about things that'll help you, tools that'll help you and get success on e-commerce. Subscribe to the newsletter. PrintOnDemandCast.com is where you can go to do that. You'll get tips, tricks, bonus dad jokes, and annual design calendar, which is a phenomenal tool to help you plan out what's coming, what's next, what designs should you be preparing for which holidays and pertinent times in the year. And you really get to kind of just map stuff out. So it's an amazing tool that we have made available to you guys to use in your business to capitalize on the success as well. So again, printondemandcast.com is where you can go to subscribe to the newsletter. And if, again, bonus dad joke, what else do you need, right? That's what everyone loves, is the bonus dad jokes. So please be sure to do that. And we'd be very, very appreciative. And you'll get a lot of extra bonus. And sometimes, Travis, we send stuff out that we don't talk about on the show. Sometimes things just live only in the newsletter. There's tips, tricks, ideas that don't make it to the show, but it lives in the newsletter. So if you guys want to be in if you want to close the Print on Demand Cast circuit and know all things inside of the Print on Demand Cast universe, you got to get the newsletter because then you'll be in the full know. And then sometimes you'll know something before we even bring it to the show if we decide to pull one up for a point of interest or something we send out. But there is content that only lives in the newsletters. So be sure to check that out. So thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next time right here on the Print on Demand Cast. For Travis, I'm Josiah. We'll see you then.
See ya.
Hey, babe. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.